Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Nai. This is going to be my first YouTube video actually. Um, I made it a New Year's resolution to start my YouTube channel. YouTube is something I have been wanting to pursue for a while, but fear and insecurities got in the way, and I was just scared of how people would perceive me or how I would be judged. And me and my friend had a conversation, and she's just like, you can't control how other people view you. So you just need to do the things that you like and do the things that make you happy, because it's better to try than to just not try at all, because you're going to regret not even trying. And people are always going to have differing opinions or things they like and things they don't like. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So, to start off the new year, I guess I'm facing one of my fears by starting YouTube, and I'm literally recording on my laptop. But anyways, let's get to the point. So in this video, I wanted to speak about the topic of people forcing themselves to be something that they're not. So the title of this video is going to be Stop Forcing Yourself to Be Something That You're Not. So, a lot of times I realize when we're inspired by something, sometimes what we do is we try to force the persona of another person onto ourselves, or we try to replicate the same essence or personality of the other person. To use this as an example, there was a time in my life where my routine was not so good, and I was facing like a lot of internalized shame for the place I was at in life and the place I was at in terms of habits. And generally I wanted to improve myself, which that's not a bad thing. But the thing with self improvement is that there's so many loopholes, and if you don't learn how to balance things out properly, it can quickly become something that's really toxic. So generally I wanted to improve myself. Now, wanting to improve yourself is not a bad thing, but what is the way that you go about wanting to improve yourself? Do you do that in a healthy way, or do you do that in a toxic way? Do you do it in an authentic and natural way, or do you do it in a manufactured way, which is you trying to force standards on yourself and replicate the essence of somebody else or the routine or structure that somebody else follows? That's where the topic of like not forcing yourself to be something you're not comes in. So generally around this time, since I was facing such bad habits and a lack of structure in my routine, obviously I had problems with self-esteem, and overall I just had a really low energy. So obviously, like anybody else, I was just like, I can't keep living like this. I want to change the way I'm living. I want to transform into a healthier, more happier version of myself. I want to reach a different timeline. I feel like I should be doing more with my life than living like this and stop wasting my potential, right? So obviously, like anybody else, I went on YouTube and I searched up, how can I improve myself? How can I change my routine? And this is a whole other loophole, to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to make a separate video on this, but obviously there is a vast array of different types of self-improvement videos, different types of techniques, different ways to build habits. And people that get into self-improvement, sometimes the biggest mistake they make and the biggest pitfall they fall in is essentially getting lost in the sauce. So this is why this is why it's so important to start your journey of self-improvement from an authentic place. You get what I'm saying? Because this is where people tend to force themselves into certain habits, force themselves into certain routines. So me, being the naive teenager that I am, I immediately started to kind of take in this content like it went straight to my head. And when I watched the video, I felt motivated. I was like, oh, I really want to change my life, or I want to change my habits. And the same day, I went to writing in my journal, like all of this new stuff I wanted to do, this new routine that I wanted to create. And can anybody guess how that ended up? I started to impose unrealistic standards onto myself. And I realized that many people who go into self improvement, the reason why they catch themselves in such self deprecative cycles is because they don't take the time to build themselves up. When you're starting to do self improvement, first of all, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. First of all, your self esteem is probably not that high. So you wanting to improve your life and just starting by building up this whole routine like, oh, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, or I'm gonna do this, that's a recipe for disaster. That's where you start to force yourself to be something that you're not. So yeah, obviously I started to try and impose these routines on myself. I started to take in the opinions of others, and I started to structure my life and my routine based off of what other people were portraying on the internet or what other people were showing. And it completely messed me up. Like, I used to like write down the routines and I had completely no energy to follow through with them or to even really keep a stable routine. And then there was also this expectation of perfectionism surrounding the idea of what I needed to do. And then afterwards, I started seeing the content that was like, if you truly deserved, you did better, you would do better for yourself. And if you really loved yourself, you would make the changes that you would need to make. And obviously, it made me very upset because I felt like I was a failure. Because I'm just like, I want to do all of this stuff and I just can't get it done. And then it's really now like this year and a bit of last year, and honestly even up to last year I was still in this cycle. But I started to realize that we can't curate our lives around what we see on the internet or what other people portray as their routine. Think of it, when you're building a routine, ask yourself, is this something I really want in my routine? Is this something I feel like I really need? Or am I just doing what other people say they do? And am I just listening to what other people do because, to them, that's what they think what's best and that's what they structure their self around? You need to ask yourself, is the routine I'm building or is what I'm trying to do, is it really authentic to me? And even if it is, the space I'm in right now and where I'm starting from, am I actually able to reach these goals? Because in order to build a habit, you have to start off with little milestones or like little goals. Have you ever heard the saying, people underestimate what they can do in, no, not people underestimate, people overestimate what they can do in 1 week, but they underestimate what they can do in a year. So I think that's the biggest pitfall that people fall into with self improvement. It's like they start off crazy, they set completely unrealistic goals for themselves, and then they beat themselves up for not really even being able to reach these goals when you're just a beginner. I feel like a lot of teens fall into that cycle, and sometimes a lot of ways in which content is manufactured, a lot of things that go around, it's meant to be aesthetically pleasing, and there's even stuff titled as the perfect morning routine, the perfect night routine, my aesthetic morning routine. People become obsessed with perfectionism, and it becomes more on like how perfect they can be and how aesthetically pleasing things are, rather than them actually building up progress and being realistic. So the next time you fall into a self improvement trope, which is not a bad thing, but the next time you go online and you search up things, ask yourself before you try to squeeze yourself into a routine: is this what's authentic to me? Is this what I like? Is this the routine that feels right to me? Is it realistic? You need to ask yourself that, or else you're going to end up forcing yourself to be something you're not. And if you follow somebody else's routine, and if you follow what somebody else does and you don't ask yourself any questions, you're forcing yourself to be something you're not. I feel like it's often after people fall into these cycles like me, we start to ask ourselves what we want. And then the whole time you realize what you're chasing and what you're doing, you were just doing it because you saw somebody else do it. And it looks good for them and it suits them. But is that what you wanted? You know, what works for everybody else might not work for you. That as well. So instead of trying to force yourself to be productive at the same pace as others, or start off big, or take these big leaps, you have to start small. And most importantly, you have to learn how to let go of perfectionism. It's not about being perfect at the end of the day. So stop forcing yourself to be something you're not. Stop forcing yourself into these exhausting routines. Stop forcing yourself to make these big leaps in like this little amount of time. It's unrealistic. Stop forcing yourself to be something you're not. Usually when people are in low spaces, that's when the inkling comes onto them like, yo, I need to improve. But at that time in your life, you're at a low space, which means that you're not really able to operate at your full capacity. You're not able to operate at the capacity of your fully disciplined self, or um the level of yourself at a higher potential. That's the point. You need to take the stepping stones to build yourself to that point. So, I mean, if you're just starting out and you're starting to force these routines on yourself, you're essentially forcing yourself to be something you're not. And it usually ends with us bashing ourselves so much and being so unhappy with ourselves that we just fall out of self improvement altogether, and we keep ourselves stuck in the same space. So, I don't know if there is anybody that is going through this right now and they just haven't realized it. If so, I hope that this person finds this video, or even if it's just for people that need to be aware of it, or even if it's just like for people that need some, reflection on certain things, I hope they are able to find this video. Stop forcing yourself to be something you're not. It's not gonna work out. Before you do anything, ask yourself, is this what I want? Am I doing this because this is what I truly want or what truly resonates with me? Or is it just a different version of what I perceive something to be through the lens of somebody else? Or is it just me being influenced by somebody else's vision of things? Is it your vision or is it somebody else's vision? Is it the habits you want to build, or is it the habits somebody else is building in their own way? Because we can have the inspiration to build the same habits, but everybody's different. They're not necessarily going to build those habits in the same way. And it's all dependent on our unique situation and individual traits about our personality and the type of individual that we are. So I want you to ask yourself, what is your motivation behind doing things? And stop forcing yourself to be something you're not. Because most of the times people don't ask these questions, and even they don't even realize it. They don't even realize that they're forcing themselves to be something they're not. It's an unconscious thing. Back then when I was in this state, or when I was in this cycle, I didn't even realize it. So just food for thought. But that's really what I wanted to cover in this video. I feel like I was speaking from the heart, so I hope I was able to get across my point, and I hope everything I said makes sense. And I hope it can serve as words of encouragement for somebody. But if you come across this video and you like it, subscribe. I'm going to be posting more consistently this year. But yeah, if you liked it, subscribe. Bye bye.